There is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
Life inside MDC Brooklyn is rough. So rough, in fact, that inmates are ready to flip on Diddy just to catch a break. And guess who's sharing the cell block with him? None other than Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto con artist who went from billionaire to bunk bed real quick. Now here's where things get spicy. Word on the inside is SBF might be snitching on Diddy. The big question, what could a fallen crypto bro possibly know about the diddler? What secret is so juicy it's got the feds listening and inmates talking? Stick around and find out in this video. Did SBF snitched on Diddy behind bars? If you ain't familiar, Sam Bankman-Fried, also known as SBF, he was that weird-haired dude who ran FTX, one of the biggest crypto exchanges that collapsed in November 2022 when everybody found out he was playing with customer money. By the time Diddy rolled up to MDC Brooklyn, SBF had already been found guilty and was waiting to get hit with what ended up being a 25-year bid. It's wild to think about these two sharing the same unit, a hip-hop mogul and a tech nerd. But when you think about it, they got more in common than you'd expect. Both were at the top of their games, both were stacking insane paper, both had connections with the elite, and both came crashing down in ways nobody saw coming. The comparison gets deeper too. The feds are painting both men as dudes who thought the rules didn't apply to them, who used their money and power to manipulate people and get whatever they wanted, however they wanted it. We know Diddy and SBF were housed in the same special unit at MDC Brooklyn, and we have heard reports that SBF has actually snitched on Diddy. You know how jail politics work. High-profile inmates in close quarters, one already convicted and looking at decades behind bars, the other facing similar time. That's a recipe for somebody trying to cut a deal to lighten their own sentence by dropping dime on their neighbor.
There is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins.
The Metropolitan Detention Center where both men are locked up ain't nothing like the penthouses and mansions they're used to. Former inmates, lawyers, and even judges have called it hell on earth, barbaric, and a straight-up ongoing tragedy. The conditions are so trash that some judges refuse to send people there or give shorter sentences to folks who've had to do time at MDC.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
The reality check for Diddy must be hitting different. MDC Brooklyn holds about 1,200 inmates, down from over 1,600 earlier in 2024. The whole joint is known for violence, nasty conditions, not enough staff, and medical care that's straight garbage. The violence at MDC is no joke. In 2024 alone, 9 inmates caught charges for attacks between April and August, including 2 fatal stabbings and 1 dude who got speared in the spine with a homemade ice pick. An inmate named Eli said stabbings were happening at least a couple of times a week and talked about somebody getting stabbed in the eye with a shank. The body count at MDC has been climbing too. At least 4 inmates have committed suicide in the past 3 years, and in July 2024, an inmate named Edwin Cordero died from injuries after getting jumped. Back in June 2020, Jamel Floyd died after guards pepper sprayed him, which led to a lawsuit. The staffing situation makes everything worse. As of November 2023, MDC was running at about 55% staffed, meaning overworked COs and security that's looser than it should be. On top of that, at least 7 staff members have been caught taking bribes and smuggling contraband like drugs and burners in the past 5 years. For celebrities like Diddy and SBF, jail hits different. They're kept in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, which gives them more protection but means they're locked down 23 hours a day with constant surveillance. That isolation makes it difficult to prep for trial. The chow at MDC is nothing like the 5-star meals Diddy used to post on the gram. Ex-inmates say the food is straight trash basic stuff like Swedish meatballs or black bean burgers. People have found maggots in their food trays, which is beyond foul. For Thanksgiving 2024, Diddy reportedly got roast turkey for lunch and a PB&J sandwich for dinner, a far cry from the lavish holiday spreads he used to host at his mansions. The lockdown situation got even worse in March 2025, when a race riot jumped off with over 40 inmates, leading to a month-long lockdown where inmates like Diddy were stuck in their cells 23 hours a day. This is the environment where Diddy and SBF have been sharing space, though we don't know exactly how much FaceTime they've had with each other. What makes this potential connection between Diddy and SBF so interesting is that SBF, staring down 25 years in the Fed, might be looking for any advantage he can get. In the street, we know what happens to snitches, but in federal cases, cooperation often means less time or better conditions. If SBF has any dirt on what Diddy's been saying or doing behind bars, he might be tempted to flip to the feds for his own benefit. Let's look at why high-profile inmates like Diddy gotta watch their backs in federal custody, especially given what went down with Jeffrey Epstein and how these cases might be connected in ways nobody expected. Epstein parallels and jail dangers. The ghost of Jeffrey Epstein haunts every conversation about rich and famous people facing trafficking charges in federal custody. Epstein's death on August 10, 2019, at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, another federal holding tank with conditions just as grimy as MDC Brooklyn, was officially called a by hanging. But the suspicious circumstances around his death sparked conspiracy theories that still have people talking years later.
And you know, Mark, some are now comparing Diddy to Jeffrey Epstein. In a New York Post exclusive, one of those officers that raided the music mogul's home said he was, quote, as bad as Epstein.
The similarities between Epstein and Diddy are uncomfortable, but can't be ignored. Both were stupid rich with connections to the elite. Both allegedly used their money and power to traffic women. Both knew celebrities, politicians, and power players who might not want their dirty laundry aired out, and both faced the possibility of dying behind bars if convicted. These comparisons haven't just been made by internet conspiracy theorists. In a New York Post exclusive, one of the officers who raided Diddy's crib reportedly said he was as bad as Epstein. That kind of talk puts a target on Diddy's back and raises serious questions about whether he's safe in federal custody. Let's remember what went down with Epstein. On July 23, 2019, he was found unconscious in his cell with neck injuries, which could have been from a suicide attempt or somebody putting hands on him. They put him on watch, but took him off after just 6 days, which ain't standard procedure for high-risk inmates. Then, on August 10th, 2019, around 6:30 in the morning, guards found Epstein hanging from a bedsheet tied to his bunk. They tried CPR, but he was pronounced dead at 6:39 a.m. at New York Downtown Hospital. The whole Epstein situation stank to high heaven. Despite that July 23rd incident, they took him off watch on July 29th, a decision that had experts scratching their heads given his profile and previous injuries. 2 cameras outside his cell supposedly malfunctioned, so there's no footage of what went down. The guards who were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes were allegedly browsing the internet and sleeping on the job, then falsified the logs afterward. Making things even shadier, Epstein's cellmate got transferred out the day before he died, leaving him alone, which breaks protocol for inmates who might harm themselves. The medical examiner found fractures in Epstein's hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage, which she said matched up with suicide by hanging. But these same injuries raised eyebrows because they can also happen when somebody gets strangled. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's brother, said the hyoid and thyroid cartilage fractures were extremely unusual in suicides and looked more like what you'd see in homicidal strangulation. Baden also pointed out there were no photos of Epstein's body in position when they found him, and he couldn't get access to all the evidence he needed. The lack of transparency made everything worse. Key records like ambulance reports, 911 call logs, and details about exactly how Epstein's body was positioned are still missing or haven't been released, making people suspect a cover-up. A 2019 poll found that 45% of Americans believed Epstein was murdered. Only 16% thought it was suicide, and 39% weren't sure. The Epstein didn't kill himself meme went so viral that it became part of pop culture, showing how many people don't buy the official story. Given Epstein's connections to major players, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, and others, plus his claims about having dirt on these people, many believe he was silenced to protect powerful interests. Epstein's former girlfriend and alleged accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, who caught a conviction on sex trafficking charges, also reportedly faced threats and dangerous conditions while locked up. Maxwell's lawyers told the court before her June 2022 sentencing that an inmate in her unit at MDC Brooklyn threatened to murk her, saying an extra 20 years in prison would be worth the money she'd get for taking Maxwell out. Her legal team used this to argue for leniency, saying her jail conditions were harrowing, and compared it to Hannibal Lecter's situation in The Silence of the Lambs. In another incident from June 2023, Maxwell snitched on 2 Cuban inmates, nicknamed Las Cubanas, at FCI Tallahassee, who were trying to extort her by demanding items from her commissary. The inmates got sent to the hole for 47 days, and when they came back to Gen Pop, they were supposedly looking for payback. Maxwell was reportedly so shook that she wouldn't use the shower stalls, where inmates often get jumped, and needed a guard escort to her prison job. These stories show the real dangers that high-profile inmates face, especially those connected to trafficking cases. So now we gotta ask, is Diddy facing similar risks at MDC Brooklyn? There are signs that the authorities are taking Diddy's safety seriously. He's in the special housing unit, which gives him more protection but means he's in solitary lockdown.
He's probably not going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me, where I will go through process and intake, and then they'll assign me a cell, and I'll have a bunkie or a cellmate. And I'll be in population.
But even with these precautions, MDC Brooklyn is still a dangerous place. A former MDC Brooklyn warden told TMZ that Diddy's life could be in danger because of how violent the facility is, even with him being in the SHU for protection. The safety concerns get worse because of how public Diddy's case is and people comparing him to Epstein. When inmates hear guards or the media comparing a high-profile prisoner to a notorious figure like Epstein, it puts a bullseye on their back inside the walls. The charges against Diddy have led to speculation about witness tampering or other forms of obstruction of justice, which is exactly what prosecutors brought up when fighting against his bail. This adds another layer to the safety equation, not just protecting Diddy from other inmates, but potentially protecting witnesses from Diddy's reach. The safety concerns for Diddy at MDC Brooklyn get even more complicated because of the facility's ongoing issues with contraband and security. A November 2024 sweep of the facility turned up drugs, shanks, and electronics, showing how easy it is for prohibited items to make it inside. The facility's security has been questioned ever since Epstein's 2019 at the Manhattan facility, with similar concerns at MDC Brooklyn. All these factors create a perfect storm of danger for Diddy. He's got the regular risks that come with being famous in a violent jail, plus the specific threats that come with being compared to Jeffrey Epstein, a name that carries major weight behind bars. Another hot topic in this case is the bail situation. Legal experts have been debating whether Diddy should have been granted bail, with some saying the repeated denials don't make sense since he's not likely to flee.
You try to give people who are presumed innocent the right to be free pending trial, but you don't take it away from somebody just because he has the resources to afford to have armed guards around his house that would absolutely prevent him from in any way committing crimes or escaping. So it's a clear violation, in my view, of the Eighth Amendment.
Alan Dershowitz, that famous lawyer who's repped everybody from O.J. Simpson to Jeffrey Epstein, argued that Diddy should have gotten bail based on the presumption of innocence and the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits excessive bail. Dershowitz says Diddy's paper shouldn't count against him when deciding bail and that he could have been monitored with house arrest and security. On the flip side, Gloria Allred pointed out that even with confidential civil settlements, witnesses can still testify if subpoenaed, which might address concerns about witness tampering. She also compared the situation to other high-profile cases, noting that witness tampering has been a problem in cases like R. Kelly.
Sometimes there are criminal charges filed not only against the defendant, but also against the person who is his friend or supporter who does threaten a witness. And that was the case in the R. Kelly criminal case as well.
These debates show how complex the situation is, balancing the presumption of innocence, public safety, making sure the trial runs proper, and the rights of the accused. They also highlight how celebrity cases get extra scrutiny, especially those involving sexual misconduct allegations. Let's look closer at Diddy's trial, the evidence stacking up against him, and what the experts are saying about his chances in court. The Fed's case against Diddy and what the experts say. Here's where things stand right now. As of May 12, 2025, Diddy is still behind bars at MDC Brooklyn with no bail, and his trial kicked off on May 5, 2025. He's facing 5 federal counts: 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. If the jury finds him guilty, he's looking at 15 years to life in the Fed. Since getting locked up in September 2024, Diddy's legal team has been busy trying to get him out on bail. They filed multiple bail requests, but different judges kept shutting them down. The judges kept bringing up witness tampering concerns and flight risk, even though Diddy offered a crazy $50 million bond, house arrest, and ankle monitors. Meanwhile, the civil suits against him started stacking up. In October 2024, Texas attorney Tony Busby announced he was about to file 120 civil lawsuits against Diddy on behalf of unnamed plaintiffs claiming assault and abuse. By mid-October, 6 anonymous plaintiffs had already filed suits, including one dude who said Diddy inappropriately touched him when he was just 16 at a 1998 Hamptons white party. A major development dropped on March 14, 2025, when federal prosecutors hit Diddy with a superseding indictment, adding 2 new charges of trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution related to a woman they called Victim 2, covering alleged acts from 2021 to 2024. Diddy pleaded not guilty to these new charges too. Just days before the trial started, Diddy made a big decision. On May 1st, 2025, he formally rejected a federal plea deal that would have let him cop to lesser charges to avoid a super long prison sentence. This choice to go to trial shows either confidence in his defense, desperation, or a strategic bet that the prosecution's case might not be as tight as they think. One of the most damning pieces of evidence against Diddy is that 2016 surveillance video showing him going off on Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway. On March 7, 2025, Judge Aaron Subramanian ruled that this video could be used at trial, even though the defense claimed it was edited. This was a major L for Diddy's defense, since the video shows exactly the kind of violence described in the indictment. It's worth noting that Ventura had previously filed a lawsuit against Diddy back in November, accusing him of rape and abuse. Even though she got a bag from Diddy with an undisclosed settlement just one day after filing the lawsuit, Ventura can still be subpoenaed to testify in the criminal case, as Gloria Allred broke it down.
Even if there are confidential civil settlements, there's always an exception in the law. They can still testify in a court of law if they are subpoenaed to do so.
As the trial kicked off, legal experts have been weighing in with different takes on Diddy's chances in court. Some are comparing his case to high-profile convictions like Keith Raniere, the NXIVM cult leader, who caught over 100 years. That comparison suggests some experts think the prosecution has a solid case to lock Diddy up. Based on what we're hearing, the defense strategy is all about consent. Gina Barton, an investigative reporter for USA Today, said the defense is trying to paint Diddy as just being into an alternative fringe lifestyle with consensual partner swapping, claiming none of it was forced. They're hoping this angle will counter the prosecution's claims about coercion and abuse, especially with all that video evidence the Fed seized from Diddy's cribs. Diddy's defense team is facing challenges beyond just that hotel video. In late April 2025, they tried a wild strategy, suggesting that Diddy's drug use had him so twisted that he wasn't mentally fit to commit the alleged crime. This defense move could be trying to downplay intent, but most legal heads think it's risky as hell and probably won't connect with jurors when the charges are this serious. The defense did score some small wins in the courtroom, though. There are some limits on expert testimony. Judge Aaron Subramanian blocked psychologist Dawn Hughes from testifying about coercive control as a form of domestic abuse, although she can still speak on victims' coping strategies and why they stay in abusive relationships. Meanwhile, the defense can bring in clinical psychiatrist Dr. Eli Aoun to talk about Diddy's drug-induced blackouts or being too twisted to know what he was doing, which might help their mental fitness argument. Another part of the defense playbook is trying to frame the whole case as racially motivated. Diddy's lawyers pointed out the Mann Act's racist history in their motion to dismiss the transportation charge, arguing that Diddy's being targeted unfairly as a successful black man. We don't know if this argument will stick in court, but it adds another layer to their defense strategy.
Maybe it's not what someone here would do in the bedroom, but that doesn't mean that what he did was a crime.
While all this legal drama was playing out in the courtroom, there was some wild behind-the-scenes shenanigans too. Federal prosecutors filed a motion asking the judge to check celebrity defense attorney Mark Geragos for allegedly messing with the jury selection process. According to court documents, Geragos, whose daughter Tenny Geragos is on Diddy's legal team, was giving advice on how to handle jurors and commenting on selection strategies, even though he's not officially part of the defense squad. This alleged jury tampering mess makes Diddy's situation even more complicated and raises questions about whether his trial is going down fair and square. If the judge agrees with the prosecution, it could lead to sanctions against Geragos and potentially damage Diddy's defense team's credibility. Beyond all the legal moves, we gotta consider the bigger picture of the music industry and how it treats women. Music exec Ty Gloria spoke in an NPR interview, talking about her own sketchy experience at a Diddy-hosted event and highlighting how the music industry has a culture of silence. She mentioned that many women have similar stories but stay quiet because they're scared of retaliation or bound by NDAs, suggesting that Diddy's trial could be the first domino to fall in a bigger industry accountability check. Now let's get back to that potential connection between Diddy and SBF at MDC Brooklyn. While we don't have all the details about how they've been interacting, the potential implications are major. Both these dudes were at the top of their respective games before falling hard. Both got knowledge and connections that could be valuable to prosecutors in various cases, and in the federal system, snitching often leads to reduced time or better conditions. For SBF, already convicted and facing 25 years in the Fed, dropping dime on a high-profile cell block neighbor like Diddy could potentially earn him some benefits. While we don't have confirmed reports that SBF has directly snitched on Diddy, the possibility is definitely there. For Diddy, having someone like SBF in the same special housing unit creates extra risks. Any incriminating statements made to fellow inmates could find their way back to prosecutors. In jail, walls have ears, and someone already facing decades might be looking for any advantage they can get. Word on X is that prosecutors accuse Diddy Diddy of using other inmates' phone time to reach out to witnesses, plant stories in the media, and influence people by putting money on their books. If true, this suggests Diddy's still trying to control his narrative from behind bars, which could show he's stressed or desperate, but we gotta take these claims with a grain of salt since they ain't been confirmed. As the trial keeps rolling, the spotlight on Diddy's case will only get brighter. The trial is expected to last 8 weeks, with testimony from at least 3 or 4 alleged victims, including Ventura. The outcome will depend on how jurors interpret all the evidence in the cultural context, with major implications for both Diddy and the music industry as a whole.
Even if you're a celebrity, you're not above the law. Whether you're a celebrity in the entertainment business, the business, sports, religion, education, you're not above the law. And so you have to face the consequences of what you are alleged to have done.
As Gloria Allred put it, no matter how famous you are, the law still applies. The next few weeks will show whether the system can really hold powerful figures accountable and whether the whole truth about Diddy's alleged crimes will come out. Like this video? Tap the card on your screen to watch more like it.
We're trying to still connect the dots. We do have some sources on scene here that we're getting this information from. We were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement.
We're looking at the live pictures of what's going on in Holmby Hills at this mansion right here, all connected to Sean Combs.
Diddy. Can't you see? Sean Diddy Combs has found himself at the center of a scandal as 2 of his properties have been raided by Homeland Security agents. These raids, which took place in Los Angeles and Miami, are linked to numerous allegations of violence and sexual abuse that have been made against Diddy. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, in collaboration with local law enforcement partners, has executed these raids as part of an ongoing investigation. In this video, I will tell you what the FBI has released concerning the potential arrest of Diddy. The raid.
Number of resources on hand with a drone flying up top, as well as they had ladders taking a closer look at certain parts of the property. And so they are looking at every nook and cranny they need to in terms of why they're investigating this home and properties.
Let's start from the beginning. Late last year, singer-songwriter Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of violence and sexual abuse. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the industry, as Cassie detailed disturbing incidents that allegedly occurred during their relationship. The allegations were serious and raised questions about the true nature of Diddy's character. Cassie's lawsuit, filed in November 2023, shed light on a side of Diddy that many had never seen before. She accused him of physical assault, emotional abuse, and even rape. The details of the lawsuit were graphic and disturbing, painting a picture of a man who had allegedly used his power and influence to manipulate and control those around him. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, with many questioning the true nature of Diddy's character. It also opened the floodgates for others to come forward with their own allegations against the media mogul. The #MeToo movement had already brought attention to the prevalence of sexual misconduct in the industry, and now Diddy's name was being added to the list of accused. As the allegations against Diddy continued to mount, the Department of Homeland Security took notice. On Monday, federal agents executed raids on 2 properties connected to Diddy, one in Los Angeles and the other in Miami. The raids were part of an ongoing investigation into the allegations of violence and sexual abuse. The exact details of the case remain unclear, but sources indicate that the raids are linked to a sex trafficking investigation. This shocking revelation has left many wondering how deep the rabbit hole goes and what other shocking revelations may come to light. Diddy, known for his successful career in music and business, now finds himself at the center of a scandal that could have far-reaching consequences. The raids on his properties by Homeland Security agents have sent shockwaves through the industry and have left fans and followers of Diddy stunned.
R&B singer Cassie has accused hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs of rape and a decade of physical abuse. The 2 were romantically involved for years, but in a lawsuit made public today, Cassie says there was a pattern of control, drug use, and forced sexual encounters.
Cassie's lawsuit was filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, which allowed victims a one-time, 1-year window to sue their alleged sexual abusers, even if the statute of limitations had expired. In her lawsuit, Cassie claimed that she first met Diddy in 2005 when she was just 19 years old and he was 37. What started as a seemingly glamorous relationship quickly quickly turned into a nightmare of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. According to the lawsuit, Diddy exerted control over nearly every aspect of Cassie's life. He manipulated her career, controlled her finances, and even had access to her personal medical record. But the most horrifying allegations revolved around the physical and sexual abuse Cassie endured at the hands of Diddy. The lawsuit detailed a pattern of violence, with Diddy allegedly physically abusing Cassie multiple times a year. These acts of violence left her traumatized and in fear for her life, but the abuse didn't stop there. Cassie claimed that Diddy forced her to engage in sexual acts with male sex workers in different cities, while he watched, masturbated to, and recorded the encounters. Cassie's lawsuit also included a harrowing incident that took place in 2018. After a dinner, Diddy allegedly forced himself into Cassie's apartment, despite her repeated pleas for him to stop. She said no and tried to push him away, but he ignored her protests and raped her. This horrifying violation marked the breaking point for Cassie, leading her to finally end the relationship for good. In her lawsuit, Cassie referenced multiple witnesses who had seen the abuse take place. One of these witnesses was her friend, singer-songwriter Tiffany Red. In an open letter to Diddy, Red described an incident that occurred during Cassie's 29th birthday party in 2015. According to Red, Diddy and his security team forced Cassie to leave the party, with the intention of having her engage in sexual encounters with other men. Red revealed that Cassie had confided in her about Diddy's physical abuse, confirming the validity of Cassie's claims. Diddy's lawyer, Benjamin Brafman, vehemently denied all the allegations, stating that the lawsuit was filled with baseless and outrageous lies. According to Brafman, the lawsuit was an attempt to tarnish Diddy's reputation and extort money from him. Despite the denial, Diddy and Cassie settled the lawsuit just one day after it was filed. The details of the settlement remained private, and Brafman emphasized that it should not be seen as an admission of wrongdoing. The allegations against Diddy continue to mount as more women come forward with their own harrowing stories. Liza Gardner, one of the women who filed a lawsuit against Diddy, alleges that she and a friend met Diddy and singer-songwriter Aaron Hall at an MCA Records event in 1990 or 1991. They were invited to an after-party at Hall's apartment, where Gardner claims she was coerced into having sex with Diddy. Shockingly, Gardner also alleges that Diddy assaulted her friend during the same encounter. The encounter left Gardner shocked and traumatized. As she got dressed, Aaron Hall allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced her to have sex with him. A few days later, Diddy allegedly came to the home Gardner shared with her friend, fearing that she would disclose the incident to the woman he was with at the time. This alleged attack further deepened the trauma Gardner experienced. Joy Dickerson Neal, another woman who has come forward with allegations against Diddy, claims that in 1991, she reluctantly went on a date with him. According to her lawsuit, Diddy intentionally drugged and sexually assaulted her after their dinner. Dickerson Neal alleges that Diddy recorded the assault and showed the tape to others, further violating her privacy and dignity. While Dickerson Neal did not immediately go to the authorities after the alleged assault, she eventually filed a police report with unspecified agencies in New York and New Jersey. However, she claims that prosecutors told her they would need to corroborate her allegations. Dickerson Neal believes that potential witnesses were terrified of Diddy's power and influence, fearing retaliation and the loss of future business and music opportunities if they were to come forward. Diddy's spokesperson has dismissed the claims made by Gardner and Dickerson Neal as fabricated, accusing them of exploiting the Adult Survivors Act. However, these women's allegations cannot be ignored. They add to the growing chorus of voices speaking out against Diddy, painting a disturbing picture of a man accused of using his power and influence to commit heinous acts. It is important to note that these allegations are still being investigated, and Diddy has denied all the accusations made against him. In a statement, he declared, "For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation, and my legacy. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth." The allegations against Diddy then took an even darker turn with the fourth lawsuit filed by an anonymous woman referred to as Jane Doe. Her allegations against Diddy and his longtime lieutenant Harve Pierre paint a chilling picture of abuse and exploitation. In this section, we will delve into the details of Jane Doe's lawsuit and the gravity of the accusations. According to Jane Doe's lawsuit, she alleges that in 2003, when she was just 17 years old, Diddy, Harve Pierre, and a third unidentified assailant gang raped her at Diddy's Manhattan recording studio. The lawsuit claims that the men trafficked Jane Doe across state lines from Detroit to New York City on a private jet, where they subjected her to a horrifying ordeal. Jane Doe further alleges that the men plied her with drugs and alcohol until she was unable to consent. Despite her protests and pleas for them to stop, they violently assaulted her. The lawsuit includes several photos that Jane Doe claims were taken at the studio on that night, including one where she is seen sitting on Diddy's lap, further supporting her claims. The allegations made by Jane Doe are deeply disturbing and raise serious questions about the abuse of power and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals. The lawsuit paints a horrifying picture of a young woman subjected to unspeakable acts at the hands of those who held positions of authority and influence. It is important to note that Harve Pierre, Diddy's longtime lieutenant, has also faced allegations of sexual assault. A former assistant has sued Pierre, accusing him of using his position of authority to groom, exploit, and sexually assault her multiple times between 2016 and 2017. These allegations further underscore the gravity of the accusations against Diddy and those within his inner circle. Gay allegation.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs facing yet another sex assault and harassment lawsuit. It was filed by music producer Rodney Jones Jr. He accuses Combs of making unwanted sexual contacts while they worked on an album.
Just last month, producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones filed a $30 million civil suit against Diddy, adding to the mounting accusations against him. Jones's lawsuit alleges that while living with Diddy and working on the 2023 album, The Love Album, he was subjected to a range of mistreatment. These allegations include Diddy fondling his genitals, sexually coercing him, and hosting parties where underage girls were present and drugged. Jones also claims that Diddy brandished guns, boasted about shooting people, and used his powerful connections in a threatening manner. The details of these allegations, as outlined in Jones's 70-page filing, are deeply disturbing. They paint a picture of a man who abused his power and engaged in criminal behavior behind closed doors. The allegations also suggest a pattern of criminal wrongdoing that was concealed by Diddy's influence and resources. Jones claims that during the time they were working on the 2023 album, The Love Album, Diddy subjected him to sexual misconduct, physical abuse, and involvement in illegal activities. One of the most shocking allegations made by Jones is that Diddy fondled his genitals and sexually coerced him in various ways. These claims are deeply disturbing and, if true, indicate a severe abuse of power. Jones also alleges that Diddy hosted parties where underage girls were present and drugged, which raises serious concerns about the safety and well-being of these young individuals. However, it is important to note that certain elements of the lawsuit have come under scrutiny. Adult film star D'Angelo Knockout Marquis has claimed that video stills presented in the lawsuit as producer Stevie J are actually from one of his own scenes. This raises questions about the authenticity of the evidence presented and the credibility of Jones's claims. Another controversy surrounding the allegations is the claim that Diddy forced Jones to cover up a shooting that occurred inside a bathroom at LA's Chalice Studios. TMZ reported that 2 people were charged for the shooting, and it actually took place outside the studio. This inconsistency raises doubts about the accuracy of Jones's account and casts doubt on the overall credibility of his allegations. Furthermore, documents submitted as part of the lawsuit contain pictures of Diddy purportedly with underage girls at a party. However, 2 women have come forward to claim that they are the individuals in the pictures and assert that they were adults at the time the photos were taken. This discrepancy raises questions about the accuracy of the evidence presented and the potential for manipulation or misrepresentation. Diddy's attorney, Sean Hawley, has strongly denied the allegations, calling Jones a liar seeking an undeserved payday. Hawley asserts that there is overwhelming evidence to prove that Jones's claims are complete lies. It is now up to the courts to determine the validity of these allegations and the credibility of the evidence presented. While inconsistencies and controversies have emerged surrounding the allegations against Diddy, it is crucial to remember that these do not dismiss or diminish the seriousness of the claims made. The allegations of sexual misconduct, physical abuse, and involvement in illegal activities are deeply troubling and warrant thorough investigation. The response to the allegations against Sean Diddy Combs has exposed a troubling undercurrent of homophobia within society. While the allegations of sexual misconduct, physical abuse, and involvement in illegal activities should be the focus of the conversation, some individuals have instead fixated on irrelevant details and engaged in homophobic reactions. This response not only detracts from the gravity of the crimes at hand, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes and attitudes. One of the most concerning aspects of the response to the allegations is the trivialization of the serious accusations made by focusing on irrelevant details. In the lawsuit, producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones claimed that Diddy told him he had sex with musicians Meek Mill and Usher, with clues in the document's footnotes essentially revealing their identities. However, instead of addressing the serious allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse, some individuals have latched onto these secondhand claims about Meek Mill, turning them into the headline takeaway. Furthermore, the response to these allegations has exposed the persistence of homophobia in society. When Meek Mill responded responded to the claims, denying any involvement in gay activity, he faced a barrage of homophobic reactions. This highlights the discomfort and prejudice that still exists toward the LGBTQ+ community, even in the face of serious allegations of abuse. The focus on Meek Mill's sexuality instead of the crimes being alleged against Diddy is a stark reminder of the misplaced priorities and harmful biases that continue to pervade our society. The implications of this homophobia are far-reaching. It not only distracts from the core issues of sexual assault and abuse, but also perpetuates a culture of silence and fear. The fear of being labeled as gay or engaging in gay activity can prevent victims from coming forward and seeking justice. This stigma creates an environment where abuse can continue to go unreported and unaddressed, enabling perpetrators to operate with impunity. It is crucial to shift the focus back to the crimes at hand and to prioritize the experiences and well-being of the victim. The allegations against Diddy are deeply disturbing and warrant thorough investigation and accountability. By centering the conversation on the crimes being alleged, we can create a space where survivors feel safe to come forward and where the focus is on justice rather than irrelevant details or homophobic reactions. Diddy's history of violence.
How do you feel about these lawsuits accusing Diddy of abuse? What do you think about that? You knowing Diddy, do you think he's capable of doing that?
I think he's very capable of doing it. It's in his character. That's who he is. That's what comes with power. That's what comes with arrogance. That's what comes with, what makes him, power.
In the early days of his music career, Sean Diddy Combs started as a radio intern, eager to make his mark in the industry. Little did he know that his journey would be riddled with controversy and a history of violence that would follow him throughout his rise to fame. One of the most tragic incidents associated with Diddy's early career occurred during a celebrity basketball game that he co-hosted. The event took place at the City College of New York gym and was meant to be a fun-filled day of entertainment. However, it quickly turned into a nightmare when a stampede and crowd surge ensued, resulting in the death of 9 people.
A few times I thought I was gonna pass out because it was hot on that staircase. You know what I'm saying? And when they closed the doors, I knew something was going down.
City College was a deep experience for me. I was there, I was on the floor, I watched people take their last breath, regurgitating.
The tragedy sent shockwaves through the music industry and the community at large. Mayor David Dinkins criticized Diddy for allowing inexperienced individuals to plan the event and oversell tickets, leading to the chaotic and ultimately fatal outcome. While it may not have been entirely Diddy's fault, this early event hinted at a potential complicity in death and violence, raising questions about his priorities and the potential disregard for human welfare in pursuit of success. Despite the criticism and tragedy surrounding the celebrity basketball game, Diddy's career continued to flourish. After a stint at Uptown Records, he launched his own record label, Bad Boy Records, in 1993. It was here that he would make his mark as a music mogul, shaping the landscape of hip-hop for years to come. One of Diddy's first major successes under Bad Boy Records was the release of Notorious Big's groundbreaking album, Ready to Die. The album catapulted both Biggie and Diddy into the spotlight, solidifying their positions as influential figures in the hip-hop industry. Diddy's talent for spotting and nurturing talent didn't stop there. He went on to cultivate the careers of artists like Foxy Brown, Faith Evans, and Mary J. Blige, further cementing his reputation as a powerhouse in the music world. However, it was Diddy's involvement in the infamous West Coast versus East Coast rivalry that truly thrust him into the spotlight. The rivalry, fueled by tensions between Death Row Records' Suge Knight and rapper Tupac Shakur on the West Coast and Diddy and Biggie on the East Coast, captivated the world's fascination and intrigue with 90s hip-hop and gangster rap. Tragically, the rivalry would have devastating consequences. Both Biggie and Tupac were shot and killed in separate incidents, leaving the music industry and their fans in shock. While Diddy was never implicated in either death, speculation, rumors, and conspiracy theories continue to swirl around the circumstances surrounding these tragic events. The West Coast versus East Coast rivalry and its violent aftermath served as a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of the music industry. It highlighted the dangers and consequences of the feuds and conflicts that can arise within the hip-hop community. While Diddy may not have been directly involved in the deaths of Biggie and Tupac, the association with such violence raises questions about the culture surrounding him and the potential influence he had on the events that unfolded. As Diddy's career continued to soar, he found himself embroiled in yet another firestorm, this time facing an assault charge. It all stemmed from a controversial music video for the song Hate Me Now, featuring Nas. In the video, Diddy and Nas were depicted being crucified on a cross, a scene that Diddy deemed sacrilegious and wanted to be cut. However, the unedited version of the video was aired, leading Diddy to take matters into his own hands. He confronted the president of Interscope Records, assaulting him with a chair hair, a telephone, and a champagne bottle. The incident resulted in Diddy pleading guilty to a lesser charge and being ordered to attend anger management. This violent outburst further added to the growing narrative surrounding Diddy's history of violence and raised concerns about his ability to control his anger. But the incidents of violence didn't stop there. In a shocking turn of events, Diddy and his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez found themselves at the center of a New York nightclub shooting. After a heated altercation, 3 people were injured, and both Diddy and Lopez were arrested and charged with battery and gun possession. While Lopez's charges were eventually dropped, Diddy went to trial, claiming that he was a victim of the criminal justice system's vendetta against criminalizing black men. He was ultimately acquitted of his involvement in the shooting, but the incident further tarnished his reputation and raised questions about his association with violence. As we delve deeper into Diddy's history of violence, we come across more shocking incidents that have left a lasting impact on those involved. One such incident involves Diddy's alleged involvement in blowing up a man's car after learning about his romantic interest in Cassandra Ventura, also known as Cassie. In a deeply disturbing turn of events, Cassie revealed in the lawsuit that Diddy blew up a man's car as a response to his romantic interest in her. The New York Times, through a spokesperson, confirmed that rapper Kid Cudi, who was Cassie's then boyfriend, had his car explode in his driveway. Kid Cudi himself confirmed the account, stating, "This is all true." The revelation of such extreme and violent behavior raises serious questions about Diddy's actions and the lengths he was willing to go to control and intimidate those around him. This disturbing incident is not the only altercation that Diddy has been involved in. In 2012, rumors circulated that Diddy and Kid Cudi had a physical altercation in a club. While the details of the incident remain somewhat unclear, it adds to the pattern of violence that seems to follow Diddy throughout his career. These incidents paint a troubling picture of Diddy's behavior and raise concerns about his ability to handle conflicts in a non-violent manner. The alleged blowing up of a man's car and the altercation with Kid Cudi demonstrate a willingness to resort to extreme measures when faced with situations that challenge his control or involve individuals close to him. It is important to note that these incidents are not isolated occurrences, but rather part of a larger pattern of violence and aggression that has surrounded Diddy throughout his career. While he has been able to shape his public image and maintain a certain level of success, these incidents serve as a reminder that there may be a darker side to the hip-hop mogul that has often been overlooked. In the tumultuous world of Diddy's history of violence, another shocking incident comes to light: his involvement in a nightclub shooting alongside his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. This incident would have far-reaching consequences and further tarnish Diddy's reputation. The night started like any other for Diddy and Jennifer Lopez as they enjoyed the vibrant nightlife of New York City. However, a heated altercation quickly escalated, leading to a violent confrontation that would leave 3 people injured. The couple found themselves at the center of a criminal investigation, facing charges of battery and gun possession. While Jennifer Lopez's charges were eventually dropped, Diddy faced a trial that would test his claims of innocence. He vehemently argued that he was a victim of the criminal justice system's vendetta against criminalizing black men. The trial became a media spectacle, shining a spotlight on the complexities of race, fame, and the criminal justice system. Ultimately, Diddy was acquitted of his involvement in the shooting. However, the aftermath of the incident left a lasting impact on his career and public perception. Many questioned the circumstances surrounding the shooting and the role Diddy played in the events that unfolded. One of the most significant consequences of the nightclub shooting was the impact it had on the life of Diddy's protege, Shyne. Shyne, a rapper signed to Diddy's Bad Boy Records, was also present during the altercation and faced charges of his own. He would go on to serve 9 years in prison for assault and gun possession, claiming that Diddy had sold him out. The fallout from the nightclub shooting served as a stark reminder of the dangers and consequences that can arise from a culture of violence and aggression. It raised questions about the influence and responsibility that individuals in positions of power, like Diddy, hold over those around them. The incident also highlighted the disparities within the criminal justice system, with Diddy's acquittal contrasting starkly with Shyne's lengthy prison sentence. The documented history of violence surrounding Diddy cannot be ignored. From the tragic stampede at the celebrity basketball game to his involvement in the West Coast versus East Coast rivalry, the assault charge stemming from the Hate Me Now music video, the blowing up of a man's car, and now the nightclub shooting with Jennifer Lopez. These incidents paint a troubling picture of a man who has been able to navigate the music industry while leaving a trail of violence and controversy in his wake. The aftermath of the nightclub shooting would forever impact Diddy's public persona. While he continued to find success in the music industry, his reputation became increasingly tarnished. The incident served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of a life steeped in violence and aggression. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.